two-time Pro Bowl selection, three-time All-Pro selection, two-time All-USFL selection, two-time Super Bowl champion, NFL 1980s All-Decade Team, NFL 1990s All-Decade Team. We're going to call him a man with a golden foot on a vendetta. Please welcome Sean Landeta. Sean, thank you so much for doing the show.
Pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Okay. That's our first standing ovation.
Yeah, well deserved.
Sean, thank you so much for doing the show. And we can't thank you so much. And my brother's going to jump in and ask the first question because we just gave a litany of what you accomplished. And basically, you had said, Mike, I want to ask him.
Yeah, just as you look back on such an illustrious career, and as Mike rattled off all the accolades, what really is your proudest achievement? Is it the rings, or the fact that you lasted almost a quarter century, or your statistics that the records that you set, or anything that we didn't mention?
Well, most people would think that it's playing in the Super Bowl, which is certainly a big deal. But really, probably the best moment for any pro player, then a lot of times we forget this, is the moment you actually make the team. Your whole life, since you've been a little kid, you've always wanted to make it, and you've hoped and dreamt and worked so hard. And that moment, then you finally make it, where all your dreams have now come to pass, and there you are, and it's happening. That's really the greatest moment for any athlete. But there's so much pressure to practice well and play well that sometimes you forget about that. But that is truly probably every athlete's greatest moment, where that dream of one day I hope to make it, when it actually comes to fruition.
And especially, it was no sure thing, right? You were kind of a middle round pick. You weren't really guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, especially as a punter, there's one on every team, and every year you got to stand next to another guy and win your job. In the NFL, less than 1% of contracts are guaranteed. So often people just expect they're going to see a player on the team next year. He'll be there if he goes to training camp for 6 weeks, stand next to other guys and wins his job. So it's very stressful. You can never stop to smell the roses, but other than that, it's pretty good.
That's interesting.
You know what? I actually saw you interviewed elsewhere, and that was your exact answer, and it really.
When you think about it, it makes sense, because
It really does. It puts things into perspective.
You can't have anything else until you make the team.
Yeah, that moment, all of us as kids who love sports, we grew up watching it on TV, and every one of us at one point, even if it was for a minute, said, wow, that would be great to be part of that. But so many things have to happen. You got to stay healthy, have good teammates, have people in your corner, and all these things have to come into play besides the fact of you being able to play well enough to be there. But I was lucky to have good people around me, get good opportunities, and get a chance to do this. It was great.
That's it. If we go over to our next graphic, we got Sean in action, and you were a cornerstone of a great team. And in my opinion, and Sean, you might have heard a little bit of the opening where I was kind of patting myself on the back for my Yankee analysis. One thing that I have an unshakable appreciation for is defense. Sometimes it goes unnoticed. Sometimes it goes overlooked. The TOs of the world. In football, I don't know why the wide receivers they're all acting like divas, but they get all the attention. Whether they're on Twitter or whether they're just acting foolishly off the field, and those guys are the ones that get the attention. But you know what? You want to know something? You won 2 championships in the USFL, and you won 2 championships in the NFL. I don't think it's by accident. I think it's because the game is defensive oriented and it's critical for field possession. What you do.
Well, there's no question. That the punting game, the kicking game, and defense work hand in hand. I mean. I don't know how many times the guys on defense, it was nice for them to come to you and say, you know what, every time you put them in a tough position, that really helps us out. And our coach for a number of years, Bill Parcells, would constantly harp, on what he called hidden yardage. Everyone, as you said, knows this guy rushed for 150 yards. This guy threw for 350 yards. But at the end of the game, maybe the differential in punt average or net punt average, or how well Phil McConkey or Dave Mega could return a punt when we could cover and stop the other guys, sometimes that can be up to 100 yards in a game. And he was always very aware of that and made us aware. And Like in most things, it's all a lot of times the little things make the difference.
Sean, speaking of Bill Parcells, let's go over to our next graphic because you played in 2 Super Bowls and they both ended the same way, with Bill Parcells getting doused with Gatorade and being lifted on the shoulders victoriously, both in Super Bowl 21 and in Super Bowl 25. And if you had to pick one of the two, is it possible? Do you have one that was more favorable? You were good enough to bring down your Super Bowl rings with you today, and I'm sure that our cameraman is, if he hasn't gotten a shot of it yet, he will. But which one is the most memorable to you?
Well, obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, but for the most part, the first time you get a chance to do something that's so special, you've read about it, you've heard about it, and you live it, the first time you never forget. But that second one is very special because very few people thought we could win that game. We played against a Buffalo team that was an all-star team, just a terrific team, and we had to do everything right, and we still could have lost on the last play of the game.
For sure.
So we were very lucky to, not only get into Super Bowls. I try and tell people, getting to the Super Bowl is so hard, and then it's even harder to win the game. And both of these games that we were in and we won, we were losing at halftime. So. Very fortunate to have gotten to play in a Super Bowl, more than one, and even more fortunate to win because that team you're playing against is a terrific team.
Now, you were mentioning the hidden aspects of the punt. Now, in the second Super Bowl, you punt with a little over 2 minutes left, and you drive them back to the 10-yard line. If perhaps that punt goes into the end zone and they take it on the 20, maybe he doesn't miss a 37-yarder. Instead of missing the 47-yard.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when I think back, people have asked me what is the biggest, most important punt. Again, the first one, you remember, but that was probably the most important one for just the reason you said. We punted them, the game report says we punted them to the 10, but it went to the 9.5, so I'm gonna take that half yard.
We got another first.
But, as you mentioned, you punt that ball in the end zone there, no one pays attention to it, but on the other end, at the time, a 48-yard field goal, which he attempted and missed on grass, was less than a 50% make. If he has to kick a 37-yard field goal, that's an 80-90% make, and maybe we don't win that Super Bowl. So again, the hidden things like that, and that probably was the most important punt that I hit.